Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. My name's Barney. We'll just wait a few more moments until everybody is here with us. Good evening, everybody. If you've just joined, thank you very much. I'll just wait a little bit longer for everybody to come in. Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Barney here, just waiting for the last few people to come in, and then we'll get going. Okay, great. And I think that's it. Right. Good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. My name's Barney. I'm part of the operations team from Naturetrek HQ, and I'm your host this evening. I'm very pleased to say that we have a full house of 5 speakers for you today, which might be unprecedented for our talks. And here they all are on the screen in front of you. So we have Matt Eade, who's also works with me in Naturetrek HQ, Luca Boscain, who's in Italy and leads many of our Italian trips as well as others to other countries in the vicinity. Likewise, Nicola, who also joins us from Italy this evening. And we have Chris Gibson in Essex, and finally we'll have Tom Brereton speaking this evening, who's based down in Dorset. So obviously the theme of our talks today will be butterflies and moths from the UK and various parts of Europe, and please sit back and enjoy. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Matt.
Okay, that's great, Barney. Thank you very much indeed. And a very good evening, everyone. My name's Matt, and I work in the operations team at Naturetrek. I mainly manage tours here in the UK, but also a couple in North America, North Africa, and Southeast Asia as well. But tonight I'm going to talk about the tours that we have here in Britain that go in search of our butterflies. So since I've started, which was exactly 2 years ago, I set up a number of tours in the UK to target a number of species of UK butterflies. And that's not just the multi-night tours that you see on the left of the screen there. But as a team, we've come up with a number of tours, day trips and multi-night tours that in a single calendar year you could well see the entire 59 species of UK butterflies plus the rarities as well. So the main theme for tonight is to talk about the 5 main tours. So those are the tours on the left there: the spring butterflies of Sussex, butterflies of Hampshire, a trip up to Cumbria, to England's northwest, butterflies of Dorset, and then back down to Sussex for the August butterflies. Okay, so before I crack on with that, I'm just going to take you through some of the accommodations that we stay at. So on the left there, that's the Dean's Place Hotel down in East Sussex. So I'm actually Sussex born and bred, and for the past 15 years, I've been extremely interested in Lepidoptera. So I've grown up in this area just searching for these chalk grassland species. So I know the county of Sussex very well, so there may well be a bias towards that county this evening, but I'll try and keep it flexible. And on the right there, that's the Cumbria Grand Hotel. So that's the hotel we use on our England's Northwest tour. So this is just an example of some of the accommodations that you will get to stay at. So the rooms are very nice and you will be fed very well as well. So do not panic there. And of course, you do have the added luxury of not driving on any of our tours, so you get driven around in a wonderful 9-seater minibus. Okay, so how I'm going to play it this evening, obviously there's 59 species of UK butterflies, but I'm not going to go through all of those because that would be rather tedious. So I'm actually going to take you month by month of our tours, so starting off in May and finishing off in August. So we have two May tours that are dedicated for butterflies. So the spring butterflies in Sussex, and then the butterflies of Hampshire as well. And on our Sussex tour, which I'm going to start off with, we do venture to Seaford Head, which is the main image here. And of course, it gives you a perfect view of the Seven Sisters. So this is just one of the highlights of this butterfly tour. Now, one of the species we hope to see on this tour is the pearl-bordered fritillary. This is a butterfly that is normally associated with woodlands or woodland rides, and there's a single site in Sussex where this species resides, and they are doing very well there due to conservation work. So they do prefer large clearings in woodlands as well as rides. So it's nice and warm for the butterflies to flourish in this area. So it's a very attractive species and certainly one of the highlights of the Sussex tour. As is the Adonis blue, an absolute cracking species, if I must say so. And it's just an absolute beauty, a species of chalk grasslands, mostly, especially in Sussex. We have 100% success rate. You will definitely see this butterfly, not just on our Sussex tour, but our Hampshire tour and our Dorset tour later on in the year as well. So it's a fantastic butterfly. This is a superb male with that gorgeous blue iridescence on the upper wing, and you just see the black markings on the outer rim of the butterfly there as well, just in case you do get confused with the common blue. But the Adonis blue, an absolute cracking species, and again, another highlight. As is this chap, the green hair streak, another wonderful butterfly. And hair streaks are rather peculiar, that with some of them, they don't actually open their wings when they land. So the brown and purple hair streak are the only hair streaks that open their wings, whereas all the others, you will not see their upper wing at all, unless you have amazing eyesight when they fly. But so they're nice and easy to distinguish. Their name basically dictates the coloration or patterning of the underwing. So of course, this chap is the green hair streak, and they are very abundant at a few sites in East Sussex. And again, fantastic species there. Okay, so those are just some of the highlights on our Sussex tour. We're now going to move to the Butterflies of Hampshire tour. And this is a classic image of a Naturetrek group at Martin Down, which is right on the Wiltshire border in the northwest corner. And this is probably without doubt the best butterfly location in southern England. It's absolutely superb. You'll see probably between 20 or 25 species, especially on a nice sunny clear sky like this one. And this is a typical lunch stop, so there's plenty of relaxing on our butterfly tours. They're not aimed for rushing around, they're aimed to provide plenty of opportunities for photography and also to study the species as well. So it's a fantastic location, Martin Down, to do just that. And this is the main target, I would say so, for our visit to Martin Down. So we only have a day here on the tour, but marsh fritillaries can be extremely abundant at this reserve, and so we should get really good views of this striking fritillary. And they're very easily distinguishable from the other fritillaries, far more patterning on the upper wing, but they also keep very low to the ground, lots of gliding, and thankfully for the photographers, they don't fly too far either. So an absolute fantastic species there. And if you join Tom Brereton, who leads our day trips to Martin Down later on in the year, around July, August, you even get to see the larva webs that the butterfly creates. So an absolute superb species. And of course, another highlight, and probably the most recognised or most famous butterfly in the UK, is the Duke of Burgundy. It's not actually it's not a fritillary at all. It's in its own genus. And again, this is another top highlight on our Hampshire tour. There's just one location that we go to, but it's a very good spot, and you should get plenty of good snaps on our tours. And last but not least, on our Hampshire tour, we take a short ferry ride over, of course, to the Isle of Wight. And that is, of course, to see the Glanville fritillary in its true wild form. Of course, there are a few populations scattered in southern England, but the population on the Isle of Wight is purely wild. So we certainly do make an effort to go and see this incredible species. Last year when the tour went, they had particularly bad weather. Tom will vouch for that, but they still managed to see a number of fritillaries just along the south coast. So again, we make a special effort to go in search of many species of butterflies within Hampshire, and a single trip, a 5-day trip, is what this one is. You can see easily upwards of 25 species, so it can be an exceptional tour if you're lucky, of course. Okay, now I'm going to take you up to northwest England to our Cumbria tour, the Butterflies of England's Northwest. Now, this is a very popular tour. So this year I've popped on 2 dates. And the reason why I've popped on 2 dates is that our main species that we try and see, the mountain ringlet, they have a very long emergence season. So they start emerging in early June, but they don't finish emerging until mid-July. Of course, the higher up you go, the later they emerge. But it gives great flexibility on our tours to try and find the mountain ringlet. So here it is, the beautiful mountain ringlet, and it's the only montane species in the UK. So it's just worth going to see just because of that. In England, it's confined to the Lake District, hence why we go to the Lake District for this tour. And interestingly, it was thought to be the first species to colonize the UK after the Ice Age, which is just incredible. So this is it's just a fantastic species. It does mean climbing uphill though, so you do have to have a tiny bit of energy about you, but there are populations slightly lower down, so they range from around 250 meters up to 800 meters above sea level. So it's nothing too strenuous here, but of course it's a major highlight of our Cumbrian tour, and one that the group did manage to see last year. So fantastic stuff. Now, of course, we don't spend all of our time in the mountains. That would be very unfair for the clients. So we do spend time on the bogs, which is a very exciting habitat, mostly for the large heath. This is another rare species, especially in England. There's only around 3 or 4 sites to see the large heath. But the site on our Cumbria tour is by far the best. So there's plenty of large heaths to go and see. And again, you get some amazing photos. It's quite handy that this site is in fact roughly a 5-minute drive from the hotel. So we always position our hotels within the heart of the wildlife, not too far driving. So that provides plenty of time and opportunity to go and see these butterflies. Okay, another speciality of the north. This is the high brown fritillary. Now, this is one of the most endangered, I would say, in the UK. Of course, the Duke of Burgundy is not in good shape either, as well as a few others. But the high brown fritillary is certainly declining in numbers. Yet it's strange. As soon as you go onto the continent, and I'm sure this species will pop up on a few slides tonight, high brown fritillaries are just everywhere in the right habitat, whereas here in the UK we're very limited to their population. There's a population in North Devon, and then there's this population here in Cumbria and North Lancashire, mainly around the limestone escarpment. So that is where we go to try and find the high brown fritillary. And the reason why I've put on 2 dates in for our Northwest tour is to try and put more emphasis on the high brown fritillary towards the latter end of the second tour, because that's when they start to emerge up north, normally around late June, early July. But again, they're not easy, and usually you see them when it's sunny weather, which is a nightmare because you've got the similar looking species, the dark green fritillary, and they just do not stop flying. It is a very frustrating process, but eventually with patience, these superb animals, these superb butterflies do settle, and that is when you can get the good view. So the shape of the wing is a major clue in the identification, but also I've arrowed there, the 3rd spot in from the wing is slightly indented and smaller as well. That's another classic feature of a high brown fritillary. Righty, so that's our Cumbria tour. So we're now going to head all the way down south to Dorset. So the Butterflies of Dorset tour, that runs pretty much at the end June and start of July, and that is to coincide with the peak emergence of the Lulworth skipper. Now, of course, the Lulworth skipper is endemic to Dorset and ranges pretty much from the Isle of Portland in the west to Swanage in the east. But along the cliff tops, they can be particularly abundant. But of course, they do also associate with small skipper as well. So you have to get really good views to make sure you've seen a Lulworth skipper. And here one is. Again, it's not the most glamorous of species, I say. And for those that have seen or are close to seeing the full 59 species of UK butterflies in the UK, the Lulworth skipper is normally the last, and that is because it just doesn't have the looks like all the others. So it can be normally last on the list, but thankfully the last one on the list is probably the easiest if you're in the right habitat. That's a wonderful species, and you can just make out on this individual the pale crescent towards the end of the wing there. And that's a key feature in the Lulworth skipper. And again, it's strange, here in the UK, they're restricted to the Dorset coastline, whereas you go to the continent and they're pretty much everywhere again. So it's a strange thing as to why these species are so hard to come by in the UK. Now, other species we aim for in Dorset, white letter hairstreak. There's a very good site not too far from the hotel. As I say, it's probably the best site, especially in Dorset, to go and see this superb hairstreak. Again, another hairstreak that keeps its wings completely shut when settled. And the main feature to separate it from black hairstreak, one is the time of year, but if you look on the hind underwing, you've got the slight shape of a W there, and that's the giveaway that this chap is a white letter hairstreak, another wonderful species. Now, of course, while we are in Dorset, we do have the remote possibility of coming across one of these. This is a large tortoiseshell, of course, a rare butterfly to the UK, but they are slowly, year by year, increasing by number. And on Portland, there is a tiny population. Whether they're breeding or not, we're still not sure, but it certainly gives our best hope of finding this rare butterfly on one of our tours. So we do devote a day to go on the Isle of Portland, not only for the tortoiseshell, but it's also very good for grayling there as well, and a range of blue butterflies such as chalkhill blue and Adonis blue again. So there we go. The large tortoiseshell may just make it onto your list if you join our Dorset tour. Okay, last but not least, and to my home ground, this was 5 minutes away from my hometown of Seaford in East Sussex, and this is our late summer butterflies tour. So this is where we go in search of a number of species that either are in the second generation or are the last to emerge of the UK butterflies. And this tour is mainly devoted to the chalk grasslands, some beautiful coastline as well, but we also do head inland and search for a couple of other nice species as well. But this is the tour leader here. This is my dad, Bob Eade, who I'm sure you've seen many of his photos this evening on this slide. And he leads this tour, but I'm not going to big him up too much, so I shall move on. So one of the key species we hope to find on this late tour is the silver-spotted skipper. Now these emerge in July, so the peak time is around the first 2 weeks of August. Now when I was a young lad, and I sound really old when I say that, but when I was a young lad, the silver-spotted skipper was quite scarce, let's say, but nowadays their range has increased exponentially along the southern counties. So it's absolutely great news. So in Sussex, of course, their numbers have gone through the roof, and your chances of seeing a silver-spotted skipper on our tour is very high indeed. Even if the weather's poor, you'll soon see them, mainly because they like to rest on field scabious, which is, I believe, that flower there. Apologies if I've got that wrong, but I think that is field scabious. And of course, the later you go on in the year increases the chances of catching up with migrant butterflies. So we saw the large tortoiseshell just now in Dorset, which may be resident, but it's a great time of year to catch up with clouded yellows, especially in the southern counties. And I remember one day at Beachy Head back in 2009, this is Beachy Head in East Sussex, I was there one afternoon and there were just swaves of clouded yellows coming through, I believe it was in late August, and it was an incredible sight. So if the winds are right and the weather conditions are perfect, then you can see vast numbers of clouded yellows. And again, we've coincided the tour to try and to try and coincide with large numbers of clouded yellows and other migrant butterflies as well. Now this is the last species to emerge in the UK, and this is of course the beautiful brown hairstreak, a species that resides along blackthorn hedges, but they're very seldom seen. They spend most of their time up in the master trees, ash trees for example, but they do also use oak, and they spend most of their time up there sunbathing, but they only come down to nectar, or later on in the season in late August, the females come down of course to egg lay on blackthorn. So on our Sussex tour, we got a very good chance of coming across brown hairstreaks. There are a few sites we go to. However, we also run a Naturetrek open days, as I'm sure you are aware. So I'm just going to move away from the tour and start advertising our open days. So if you do come to an open day in late July or August, you have a very good chance of seeing brown hairstreaks. We have a good population at the barn, and it'll probably be me who takes you around. So I know the spot. I'll have my scope just in case they are high up, but it's a great opportunity to come and see, hopefully, this scarce butterfly, and it's surely one of the most beautiful as well. This is a female with the very large orange spots there. And this is an egg which I found last year, again at Naturetrek HQ. So they plant their eggs at the bases of blackthorn twigs. So again, you just wouldn't see that hardly on other species. So it's a great opportunity to come and learn about the butterfly as well. But anyway, back to our late summer tour. And again, we've put the tour at a time when we may just come across a long-tailed blue. Now, again, it's by no means guaranteed, of course, and maybe some of you, who knows, have emailed me asking when are the long-tailed blue day trips going to go ahead, and the answer is we simply don't know, and that is because it's the butterflies come over from the near continent roughly a few weeks before the next batch emerge. So it's very short notice when these day trips will get the go ahead. So last year was a very poor year for long-tailed blues. The year before was exceptional, and many groups saw many butterflies, but that's just how the cookie crumbles, sadly. So this year, hopefully, we will start running the day trips again. But for our late summer tour, hopefully, we may bump into a long-tailed blue, but only if the winds are right. And there we go. You may just get a photo such as that, which is one my dad took of a beautiful mating pair of long-tailed blues. Righty, folks, that is just about it from me, but I'm going to finish on this one last slide before I hand over to Luca. And this is just in case you are not aware that on our website, if you go to Tour Focus, you can select the butterfly dedicated tours if you've not found it, but that's where our list of tours, not just for the UK, but for Europe and Asia and Central America as well, for our butterfly tours. So I will end it there. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that, and please do get in touch if you do wish to join any of those tours. Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening. Well, I'm gonna start here. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about the butterflies in the Dolomites. The Dolomites are situated in northeastern Italy. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. So I started to lead tours for Naturetrek in 2015, and well, I started first with birds because since I was a child, I was interested in birds, and then I started to open my fields knowing much more about butterflies, dragonflies, and flora, especially orchids. In these photos, you can see behind me, there are the Palle di San Martino that are a typical Dolomitic landscape. You see how much sharp and vertical are the rocks of the Dolomites. And behind me, you see the Malga Veneggiata. You will see later how it appears in summertime. This photo was taken only a month ago because, well, I live not far from the Dolomites, so I can go there all the times I want, I can say. And well, that's about me. Then, where are the Dolomites? You see here in the pink, it's signed the area where the Dolomites are. So they are along the range of the Alps in the eastern part of the Alps. Not all the eastern Alps are Dolomites. You see here enlarged which one massifs are included in the Dolomites. Why only these are called Dolomites? Because they are very special limestones made mainly by the Dolomite rock that was originated in the beginning of the Mesozoic era, so when the first dinosaurs started to walk on Earth. And the area of the Dolomites was situated not so much in the north, but much more in a tropic area. So this area used to be a shallow water ocean with islands like in the Maldives. So it was plenty of atolls and coralline islands that formed with an accumulation of coralline sediments, what we see and we know now as the rocks of the Dolomites. So the tour that I lead is basically in along these two different valleys, Fiemme and Fassa. And you see that they are surrounded by a number of different Dolomitic massifs. First of all, the Catinaccio, so-called also Rosengarten in German, because this area is mainly trilingual with Italian, German, and Ladin spoken around. And because of the history, well, it's quite a long story. And then you have the Marmolada, that is the highest peak of the Dolomites, about 3,300 meters of altitude, and it is the only one with a small glacier left. You have to imagine that till 30, 40 years ago, the glacier used to reach almost the lake, and now with the global warming, retired much more by the peak. And then you see down here, Palle di San Martino, that were the massif that was behind me in the first presentation of myself. Then here again, another map in which I show you here. Tamiona is the little settlement where we have the hotel during the tour, and the pink spots around are the places that we usually touch during the tour in order to maximize the possibility to find the largest number of butterflies. So usually the average is about 80, sometimes 90 species of butterflies in a week. They could be more, spending some time in the pre-Alps, but the scenery is much better in this area. So that's why the choice to be mainly in Fassa Valley and Fiemme Valley. Here in Tamiona, there is the hotel, Hotel Gran Mugon, that is owned by a family, the family Weiss. There are two siblings that are always around in the hotel, particularly friendly, and offer a very familiar accommodation. So you can see an example of the room there. They have the spa with a jacuzzi outside, and that's the restaurant where they serve lovely meals with a large variety of different dishes, and also wonderful I can see Tyrolese breakfasts that are particularly rich, much richer than in other parts of Italy. And as you see, you have seen before with the hotel, well, I can come back a bit. You see that it was with the snow. Why? Because this photo was taken leading another tour in September. And even if it was the end of summer, there was a very unpredicted snowfall. So it is quite nice, the contrast in between the colorful flowers that are always on the terraces of the hotel and the snow. Then here you can see the moth trap that we settle every night outside the hotel, behind the hotel, facing the forest. The number of moths you can find there is clearly limited by the altitude, because the hotel is at about 1,500 meters of altitude. But if you get the right night with a temperature higher than 15 degrees, with no full moon and so on, it can be really plenty of moths. Some of them are particularly interesting. I tell you about the Panthea cenobita because it's a species you don't get in Britain. Not rarely, if a species is not reported in UK, it is only known with the Latin name. Anyway, it is a rather traditional moth trap, and to take photos, I'm not a proper photographer, but I still like to take photos. All these photos of this presentation are mine. And also for the customers that are keen on photography, usually I settle the best subjects that are found in the moth trap on a piece of cork or on some wood, on a plant, in order to take much better photos, more natural to the moths. These are some of the best guys we found there. Going to the butterflies. Of course, people that think about the Alps have the dream to see the Apollo. Apollo are not a speciality of the Alps, because they are present in
Hello, Luca. Can you hear me? It's Matt.
Luca, looks like we have lost Luca, unfortunately. Okay, so I think what we might do at this point is take a 10-minute break, and we'll obviously try and get Luca back on. So sorry about that. I'm sure it's all fine at his end. Maybe just a power cut or a slight Wi-Fi issue, but we will try and get him back. So thanks everybody. Please bear with us, and we will see you at 8:15. So in 10 minutes time, 8:15.
I'm back. I don't know why I've lost the internet connection.
It's okay, Luca. We're just going to take a short break. Just come back at 8:15 for the rest of your talk.
Okay, perfect.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Hi, hello everybody. I hope you managed to grab a drink, and thank you for bearing with us. I think we do have Luca back with us again. So Luca, will hand back over to you.
Yeah, I'm very sorry about I had the problem with the connection. I hope that I'm gonna work with the tethering of the mobile phone. Anyway, I was telling you about the Apollo, that is a butterfly that if you really want to see, I cannot guarantee to you. Just wanted to say this because that's not a tour in which you see a lot of them. Usually one or two, but it cannot be guaranteed. For my opinion, the star of the tour I lead is the Alpine blue. Alpine blue is endemic of the Alps and was seen so far during all the tours I led there, and it's very special not only for the very bright blue upper wings, but also for the underwing. You see here that it lacks any orange of black spot on the hind wing, and you only have some white olives, I can say. It is very, very attractive, never common, but usually seen with some individuals during the week. Then another group in which we are specialized, let's say, in the Dolomites, are the ringlets, the genus Arabia. You see here a map with the observation on iNaturalist about the Arabia. So there are about 100 of species around, 15 in North America, 35 in Asia, 5 in Northern Europe, 2 in Britain, and about 40 in the Alps. So you see that it is really the stronghold of this genus and the place where you can get the majority of the species. Down here, you see 3 different photos that show the variety of ringlets that there are in the world. You can try to tell which one is the only one you can find in the Alps. The other 2 are found in Asia. So the central one is the Alpine one. About the ringlet, of the 40 species of the Alps, in Val di Fassa you can find about 15. And all these 9 were reported during the tours, and there are some more. And the commonest one is large ringlet. So you see that they are, well, for somebody maybe not so attractive butterflies. They are all very similar, dark species, and they are so dark in order to maximize the possibility to heat up when there are short times of sunshine in the mountains. You know that the weather can change very quickly, and not rarely the weather is bad. So they need to use to enjoy as much they can the few times in which there is sunshine. Large ringlet is a species that has a distinctive checkered fringe on the wings, and well, in the Val di Fassa can be easily identified from other species also because there are no white ocelli in the black dots. This rule is valid only in the Dolomites. If you go just a little bit farther in the west of the Trentino province, so the same province, there you can find large ringlets with much larger orange bands along the wings and with the white spot. So the lack of the white is not anymore distinctive. Here you have the silky ringlet, that is also a species that varies a lot in the different population. The population of Val di Fassa is one possibly of the most attractive, because you see that there is a very large and bright orange band along the wings and beautiful black and white ocelli. Just to explain a couple of examples about the variety of the Arabia. So even if they belong to the same species, different population in different valleys or different sides of the Alps have different characteristics. And well, large ringlet is one of the largest species, while some others are much smaller. So mountain ringlet, blind, and yellow spotted, and lesser mountain ringlet are much smaller species. Another interesting thing is that depending on the tours, you see different species. So sometimes if the season is in delay, you can get early species like dewy ringlet and almond ringlet. While if the season is earlier than usual, you can more easily find the yellow spotted ringlet, that is a species that emerges later in the season. So probably you need to do more than one tour to see all the species in the same time. Another group that is particularly various in the area are the grizzled skippers. They are also possibly not so attractive for some people because they are smaller than most of the other butterflies. I like them a lot because they are very hairy and they are difficult in the identification. So like for the Arabias, you need to have a view of upper wing and under wing to get a correct identification. If not, they can look very, very similar one to the other. The only exception is Alpine grizzled skipper that has 3 spots here at the base of the forewing. You see that on the other species there are 0, 1, or 2 spots. That's distinctive. Then going to show a little bit how it works during the tours. Here it's a photo of some of the clients that were taking a photo in the bottom of the valleys. So during the week we go into 2-3 different places that are lower in the altitude, and there the variety, the number of species is a bit larger than at higher altitudes. And you can find even swallowtails, scarce swallowtail, species that are typical of lowlands. But there are also some specialities. These are 4 different species you can find at low altitudes. Large checkered skipper can be almost guaranteed because it's rather common in the right habitat, while the Meleager's blue possibly has lost the only one site of presence. You will see that if you come in the Dolomites that all the area was affected by a very bad hurricane that destroyed quite a few forests, and so there was quite a lot of cropping activity around that destroyed some meadows. But anyway, it's still attractive, the area. Here, the same group taking photo of the Alpine blue, and at a higher altitude. Here there are lovely meadows, plenty of orchids that have some other different species. Titania's fricillary is incredibly attractive on the underwing. Sometimes we found large blue that is never common also in the Val di Fassa. And Amanda's blue, it's another rather common species in the medium altitude meadows. Then here you can see in summertime the Palle di San Martino, the same mountains that were behind me, and again Malga Venegiotta. It's a lovely place where customer can have a coffee, a beer, enjoying the landscape or looking for marmots around. Some more species you can find around there. I put some attention, especially on mountain fricillary. Here you have a female that is incredibly attractive when you have a fresh individual, because it has this very special gray tinge with some shines of blue or green, depending on the individuals. And it is one of the speciality of Val Veneggia, that is a lateral valley of Val di Fiemme. Marsh fritillaries can also be seen around. There is the subspecies Glaciagenita that is typical of the Alps. And while the That's the northern brown Argus, that is similar to the usual brown Argus, but without any orange. You might notice that most of the alpine species are much darker than the similar species of the genus at lower altitudes. That's always in order to eat up quicker than with a few sunshine. And this is the place where we reach the highest altitude during the week, about 2,300 meters. That's the Sassolungo. Here there are lovely alpine pastures where there are some specialities of the Alps. Species that are can be found in the Alps or in Scandinavia, so very, very cold habitats. Like the Alpine grayling or the mountain clouded yellow. Here you see a number of blues and skippers paddling together. That's a bog where there are also interesting dragonflies. And running a little bit, a few the most beautiful moths you can see during the week, like the barnes. You know that they are day-flying moths, mainly red and black. And then clearly there are flowers around, even if usually the peak of the butterfly season is a couple of weeks later than the peak of the flowers. So usually, even if there are quite a few very attractive species like the sleeper orchid or king of the Alps, when you go to look for butterflies, you only find the last flowers or flowers in bad conditions. For some other species like Edelweiss is the beginning of the season. Red vanilla orchid is usually in the best time of the year. I'm not a botanist, but I'm pretty much in flowers. So during the tour, I try to show them quite a lot to people. And well, these customers are looking for chamois in high altitude, and there is quite a lot of other fauna that can be seen around in the Dolomites, going from typically alpine species like Alpine centaur or white-winged snowfinch. If you're interested in these birds, I suggest you to join Jessica Turner that leads another tour in June. That is better for birds, for birding in general, but there are still chances also during the butterfly tour. So that's more or less running a bit the explanation and the description about my tour. And well, I hope to have you to see you in the Dolomites in the future. And thank you for the attention.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Luca. Not easy.
You're welcome.
But thank you. Right, Nicola, without further ado, we'll hand over to you.
Yeah. Okay, sorry guys, I cannot see my screen right now. Okay, so can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Although I think you just need to start the slideshow.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes,
okay.
we can.
Okay. So, hello, good evening, everybody. Once again, I'm Nicola Scatassi from Italy. I've been guiding tours, I think the same as Luca. I started with Naturetrek in 2015, but I had led previous tours also in previous years. My proper work, let's say, I work full-time here in northwestern Italy as a ranger in a natural park along the Po River, but I enjoy very much guiding, leading tours, mainly in Italy, but also somewhere else in Europe. Well, Macedonia, this tour is about, of course, butterflies, but not only butterflies. And this is to give you an idea of where Macedonia is. The Republic of North Macedonia is a landlocked country. It's just smaller than Belgium. So no long drives during these tours, no worries about that. It borders with Albania, Greece, Bulgaria, and Kosovo and Serbia. And as you can see here on the right, the circled areas in white are where we mostly stay during the tours. In this area, in the southwestern corner of the country, in two national parks, Galicica and Pelister, and also in another area more to the eastern parts of the country along the Vardar River Valley, and also other few places around. But again, it's not a very big country, so no long distances. This is just to give you an idea of what we see during the tour. So butterflies, of course, but not only, as it's the standard in all Naturetrek tours, of course. And this, again, I'm going to show you a sequence of photos to show examples of the various habitats that we explore during the tour. So it's Macedonia is a hilly, mountainous country. So basically, on the first leg of the tour, we visit the higher mountains of Macedonia in the two national parks, Galicica and Pelister. So the habitats are, of course, mountains, mainly wooded. They don't reach a very high altitude, less than 3,000 meters. So not like the Alps, let's say, which Luca just showed you. So wooded forest, a lot of open areas with rocky outcrops, some fantastic rivers full of biodiversity. And here we can see our local guide, Dime, showing people the beautiful Macedonian pine forests that we see during one day. Very good habitats for a lot of species. And here on the right, the lower part on the right, more in lower parts of the country, open countries, very exciting for biodiversity in general again. As you can see, the tour is made in June, so a lot of flowers all around. As I said, the rocky outcrops also impressive. And here you can see we pay visit to a monastery, Treskavets, sorry, difficult names. Treskavets Monastery, which is very fascinating, which is actually inhabited by just one lone monk who's been living there for decades on his own, and some very nice frescoes in this monastery, so very interesting. And this last photo here on the right is not to show you the truck, but to show you the cliff, which has nests of black stork and Egyptian vulture, so very interesting. Here again, let's go clockwise. We have I think 2 or 3 days during which we have our lovely lunch in open dining halls, open restaurants with where you have swallows nests over your head, and you have a very nice stream very close by where you see dice, snake, and other wildlife. So very nice atmosphere. The village here is Ohrid, a small historic town, very important locally, on the shores of the Lake Ohrid, not far from the Albanian border, and we have a nice stroll there one afternoon. Then here we have, just to show you, we normally have, of course, let's say the famous Naturetrek picnic lunches, but also some very nice restaurant lunches, as I just show you. But on one particular day, very high in the mountains, in a mountain hut by a lake, we have this very typical meal, which is provided by a ranger of the park that guides us on that day, and with all sort of homegrown vegetables, homemade pies, and it's a very appreciated lunch that we have. And during that day, we reached that lake and that mountain hut with those 3 4x4 vehicles that you can see. Of course, the normal minivans, 9-seater, are used for the tours. And this is just a picture of this tour is based in 2 hotels. This one here on the left is in the mountains, and this one here on the right, very beautiful, is more in the lower parts of the country. Now I'm going to show you a sequence of photos of the different butterflies that we see during that tour. I made this tour in 2019, and we saw 103 species of butterflies, which is pretty much the standard of the tour, this tour. And it's just over the half of the species that you can find in North Macedonia, so not bad at all. Of course, being situated in that part of Europe, many species are particularly attractive because of their distribution, of course, also. So a lot of the species that I'm going to show you have, of course, a limited distribution, limited to Southeastern Europe. So the blues, I started with the blues. Of course, we did see a lot of blue species. By contrast, Luca was speaking about a lot of ringlets that they see in the Dolomites. Here, I think we saw only 2 species of ringlets, but a lot of blues, like the zephyr blue, turquoise blue, amanda blue, mazarine and adonis. So it's very good also because sometimes in some, for example, I remember near a spring in the mountains, you get to see a lot of different species very close to each other. So it's very good also for comparison, to spend a few hours there trying to distinct all the different species. It's always nice. Of course, photo opportunities are great. For example, the zephyr blue here has a scattered European population distribution, but it's much commoner in the southeastern parts of Europe. Well, again, a few interesting blue species like the eastern button blue, very nice, or the Lang's short-tailed blue, very peculiar, very attractive species. And again, the Provençal short-tailed blue, again, all species with southern distribution, so very interesting for butterfly watchers coming from Northern European countries. Here I have the brown argus and the Steveni form of the Meleager's blue. So again, very interesting forms and species. Well, of course, here the little tiger blue, I guess, is probably one of the most cracking species that we see during this tour. Very nice. The diamond blue again is in the higher parts of the Macedonian Republic that we see this species. Blue spot hair streak again is a species very nice, and we did see on 2 days, I think, during the tour. Again, the blue argus, a nice and interesting species with a southern eastern and European distribution. On to the coppers again, we did see quite a number of species of coppers, with some again with, of course, limited distribution. For example, the Balkan copper. Very nice species, like all coppers, of course, with its bright colors, and usually quite easy also to see in photographs. That if you're lucky, you can get good views and good photos opportunities. The purple shot copper, Lessifier copper, very nice species. To other families now. Well, again, of course, clockwise again, the eastern greenish black tip is again, wow, a species with a limited distribution. So I guess very interesting again for butterfly watchers all over Europe. Well, a more common species, the black veined white, but beautiful photo. I have to say, I forgot that most of the photos are not made by me, but by the other guide who was with me, who I will thank on the last slide. Again, croupers, small white, very interesting because of its distribution. And as you can see, sometimes we do take, of course, we do capture some of the species, some of the individuals for a very short time, of course, just to be sure of the identification. Then, of course, we release them again in the wild. The eastern festoon, for example, we didn't see them on the tour that I co-led. Of course, like all festoon is quite an early species, but sometimes these photos was taken in June in another tour, so it's a possibility. Of course, a gorgeous species. Some other well, commoner species like swallowtail or large tortoiseshell. Well, common depends, of course, on where you are. Clouded Apollo, again, the very interesting species of Southern European mountains. Well, fritillary. Wow, a very nice group, and we did see a lot of them. The marsh fritillary that you might be familiar with, but of course, again, now some other species that have a limited distribution again, so very much sought after, I would say, and they're all very beautiful, hard to make a chart of them. I mean, marble fritillary, knapweed fritillary, spotted, they're all fritillaries, of course, are cracking species and lovely to see and spend time with them. Freyer's fritillary, again, twin spot, very sought after species. Cardinal, again, a very beautiful and large species that we did see on, I think, on various days during the tour. Well, now some specialities here, real specialities. The Eastern rock grayling, all this, well, the graylings are of butterflies of open areas, of course, with rocky outcrops, etc. So the Eastern rock grayling, and of course the Macedonian grayling, is probably the star species, I could say, of the tour, because it's really endemic of this country. And we go to a place where it's guaranteed. On the tour that I led, we went there on the first day, but the weather was horrible, so we came back there on another day, and we did see them. Very, very nice species, nice and particular, of course. And also the Balkan marble white, subtle differences, well, not so subtle with the commoner marbled white, very nice species, as well as the white banded grayling. And well, some other very peculiar but very nice species, the lattice brown, the hermit, and the nettle tree butterfly, again, species which are not easy to see, generally speaking, in Europe. So very attractive species, and a reason to come to this tour if you're a butterfly watcher, I guess. Some more species, well, skippers. Well, I have put just this heath, which is beautiful, and also the photo by Martin, it's beautiful. The Russian heath, very, very nice. And a few skippers. Of course, we did see more skippers, but I put only 3 photos here. But again, interesting species because of their distribution. The Hungarian yellow banded, the southern European species, and the sandy grizzled skipper. Well, depends on your taste, but very attractive species again. Now on to other groups, quite briefly. The odalisque, we did see this dragonfly, which in a place where it was not supposed to be. So we were very happy to find it, and really cracking and fantastic species. We were all very happy to have found this species. As you can guess by the name, Turkish clubtail is again a species with a southeastern distribution. The blade tail, I was amazed by the number of blade tails that we did see on the last day of the tour in the Mladost Lake. There were literally dozens of them all around, even in the restaurant open dining hall where we had our lovely lunch. They were all over, amazing. The Balkan golden ring again, and the blue-eyed golden ring, even rarer than the Balkan. So very, very nice. Also for dragonflies. A few other interesting insects. The bronze glandular bush cricket is a massive cricket that we had by our hotel, by our second hotel, and it's really this size. I mean, 4 or 5 centimeters, very, very big. And 2 beautiful owl flies, the milky and another macaroni, very beautiful species. Of course, some more other interesting species. As you know, Southern Europe is blessed with a lot of interesting and beautiful insect species. So an antlion, the Balkan lacewing is just amazing. And this huge and aggressive Ramus predatory bush cricket, very, very impressive, I should say. A few reptiles. There are two species of tortoises, which are not so easy to distinguish between them, but as you can see them pretty close, it's easier. The Cochise gecko is an interesting species because basically in the Vardar Valley in central Macedonia is the only species of gecko which has again a limited distribution, and you can see its legs, its toes, sorry, which are so like lizard-like. The eastern green lizard is another species that we did see almost every day. Yellow-bellied toad, very nice. Horned viper, I missed it on my tour, but it's always a chance. Dye snake were quite common. Eurasian worm snake again, great species. Just a few birds. We go in June, so a bit late for the birds in that part of Europe, but very nice species which can be seen. Black-headed bunting, very common near the hotel. Masked shrike, not so common, but almost guaranteed. The Eastern Imperial eagle, we had fantastic views. It's guaranteed, so it's very impressive bird again. Egyptian vulture, I show you the cliff where his nest was, so again pretty much guaranteed. A lot of colorful species again, and the Dalmatian pelican in the Prespa and Ohrid lake that we visit. And just a few plants to finish. The Madonna lily, which is a very attractive species again, and a few more mountain species, Daphne, moss campion, a few orchids, let's say the three-toothed and the Balkan version of the lizard orchid, V orchid. This peculiar whole flower, and this the Crocus pelistericus, which is an endemic species of the Pallister National Park of that part of the country. So again, very interesting. So that's it. I hope to see you there, and thanks Martin, the guide who was with me and who provided most of the photos with a Macedonian graining on his chest. Okay, thank you for listening.
Right, sorry, it's Chris here. I had a slight problem when my electricity went off earlier, so I think I've just lost my presentation for the moment. So I'm afraid I'll be with you in a second. Full screen, right.
No problem at all, Chris. Seems to be a night for it.
Yep, it is. It's loading up right now, so hopefully that will see me sorted and I can share my screen with you. And there it is. Yes, we all have these technical difficulties, don't we? And I feel for you, Luca. That was very well done to keep on going despite everything. Right. So I'm Chris Gibson. I'm the leader for the Butterflies and Moths, the Spanish Pyrenees. I have been for the past 8 years or so. I'm speaking to you from Wivenhoe on the flatlands of the Essex coast, probably further from the weather, the wildlife and the wild landscape of the Pyrenees you could not possibly imagine. I've, as I say, been leading wildlife tours there for about 8 years, and it's a place I love and will always remember because it's somewhere I've been visiting for the past 30 years. So where are the Pyrenees? The Pyrenees are the narrow neck between, occupy the narrow neck between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean on the border of France and Spain. So the Pyrenees have a lot of interesting features. They're a border, a political border, a people border. They're a barrier to movement of wildlife, amongst many other things. And therefore, some of the insects and other wildlife you get on one side of the mountains are very different to those on the other side of the mountains. It's also a place of gradients, a gradient from the relatively mild, wet Western Atlantic Pyrenees through to the hot, dry, at least in summer, Mediterranean Pyrenees. You get a gradient from north to south. You get gradients going up the mountain altitudes. And so all these different gradients lead to lots of different conditions, which means lots of different wildlife. And butterflies are no exception. It's also, in effect, an island of high ground, isolated from the other sierras of northern Spain, but also the Alps and the Cevennes, by lowlands. And what goes on in the Pyrenees is a little bit of excitement in terms of genetic differentiation, like is always the case within an island. So zooming in a little bit, we come to the area we stay. We stay in a place called Brereton, which, as you can see from the picture there, is very close to the High Pyrenees. Looking the other direction, you see towards the Pre-Pyrenees. From the High Pyrenees in one direction, down to the Pre-Pyrenees in the other direction is maybe at most an hour's drive in the minibus from our centre in Brereton. In Brereton is the place we stay, Casa Sarasa. Now, that is a place for me which is, well, it's a palace almost of memories. It's memories of great food, wonderful weather, fantastic wildlife, and wildlife in many cases on the literal doorstep. That's the garden of Casa Sarasa. When we're there with our butterfly and moth week in end of June, early July, we see typically between 110 and 120 species of butterfly. In the garden alone, we can see 40. So it's a great place to start exploring the butterflies of the region, including the great banded grayling, the swallowtail, and not the scarce swallowtail, but the Spanish swallowtail. This is one of those that's been isolated by the Pyrenees and formed its own similar but different species to the scarce swallowtail. Just a short stroll away, down to the rivers Aragon and Veral. There's scrublands, there's wetlands, there's drylands, there's meadows, there's hedgerows, and there again are full of butterflies, from the blue spot hairstreak and the Spanish gatekeeper to the perhaps more familiar marbled whites. It would be actually possible to spend a whole week there based at Casa Sarasa without ever getting into a minibus and have a wonderful week. But the allure of the mountains in both directions is very, very strong. Of course, rising up to the higher altitudes, up to maybe 1800 meters, you'll see all sorts of different creatures, lots of grizzle skippers of various sorts, blues of various sorts, in this case a large blue, and fritillaries of various sorts, as our other speakers this evening have mentioned, in the other mountains of Europe. And when the conditions are right, the numbers are simply stunning, especially around the drying puddles, where particularly the males are visiting to ripen their reproductive organs in order that they can bring on the next generation. In that particular picture, there may be 60 individuals, but that constitutes 9 or 10 different species of butterfly, and such sights are not uncommon. Of course, some butterflies are, all butterflies are special, but some are more special than others, and Luca again has mentioned this one, the Apollo. Well, we do see Apollos there. Not always the adults, we sometimes see just the caterpillars, but of course, on a butterfly and moth holiday, caterpillars are fair game, just as the adults are. Those are the specialities, the big game of the high tops, but lower down in the more Mediterranean hot regions, the big game there are the two-tailed pashas. Two-tailed pashas, again, we can see them as caterpillars with these wonderfully fierce-looking dragon heads on the strawberry trees, or we can see the adults here rather unsavourily drinking from a local dog poo. This, of course, is billed as a butterfly and moth tour. And so we must think about the moths. And up here in the Pyrenees, during the day, all sorts of day flyers, very familiar ones like the hummingbird hawk moth, but all sorts of others. There are day flying moths everywhere. And for me, the epitome of those are the burnet moths. The epitome of a diverse grassland on a sunny summer's day are burnets and foresters. And that is just a pin-up shot of just a few, well, probably most, but certainly not all, the species we regularly see during our trips in the Spanish Pyrenees. Of course, in reality, it's not just butterflies and moths, it's insects of all sorts. Here we have beetles, from the oil beetle and the bee chafer through to the eyed ladybird, and various bugs too. And not just beetles and bugs, it's cicadas, it's mantises, it's wasps and owl flies and flies themselves. What could be cooler than the radiant eyes of that horsefly? That will bite you, but you'll certainly get a good view of its eyes while you're doing it. And not just insects. Birds everywhere, birds breeding around the area include bee eaters and vast numbers of griffon vultures in particular, but also many, many other raptors. As far as the plants are concerned, this time of year is not the very best for the diversity of plants, but some of them are very special. The endemic to the Pyrenees, the Pyrenean lily. And then on just one of the tours I led there, this was the absolute highlight for me. This is something I have wandered through the beech woods of Europe for decades, looking for, and once there in the Pyrenees with a group from Naturetrek, I found it, the ghost orchid, an almost mythical creature which I found when I was walking through a dense, dark, in fact, forestry plantation and beechwood. It was a dark day, but the sun came out and a shaft of light broke through the canopy and pinpointed this individual just 5 meters from the path. One of the most exciting sights I have ever seen. It's a place of weather, and what we also are very fortunate to have at Casa Sarasa is a moth trap. And when the nights allow us to run the moth trap, we not only have a trap, we also have a license to run it. In Spain, you need a license to run a moth trap, and the owners of Casa Sarasa have that license. So on the nights when it's safe to run the trap, not one like this, on the nights it's safe to run the trap, we do. And we find all sorts of moths. Now, admittedly, during that particular week at the end of June, an awful lot of them are pine processionary moths. Too many of them, perhaps, are pine processionary moths. But there is a whole host of other wonders to see as well. Familiar bright things to us in the UK, like the small elephant hawk moth. Things we don't see in the UK, like the oak hawk moth, or rare migrants to the UK, like the geometrician and the passenger, or species we're never likely to see in the UK. This on the bottom right is the Iberian or Spanish pine hawk moth. This is another one of those species which is separated from the rest of its kin by the Pyrenees, and evolution has done its thing and created a new species, as with that one at the very bottom, which is the Spanish character as a segregating effect of the Chinese character we find across most of the rest of Europe. So whenever we can, we run the moth trap. Now, everything I've shown you so far is from the midsummer tours. There are plenty of other Naturetrek tours to the Pyrenees as well, and some of them go also to Casa Sarasa. So if you wanted to go on an earlier season tour in April, May time, you'll find a whole different suite of wildlife. You'll find a lot more in the way of flowers, from the daffodils and the orchids through to the gentians. And then the butterflies, a different suite of butterflies, from Moroccan orange tips and Spanish festoons, and the Spanish fritillary, going right through to the Panoptes blues. These are the early species butterflies which you will find in an earlier season tour. You certainly won't find so many species, you won't get such a long list, but there are some serious specialities. And at that time, of course, the moth selection is even more impressive, not least because it's not diluted by the hordes of vine processionary moths. Again, a whole mix, diverse moths. Again, one cannot guarantee that you get good moth trapping nights at that earlier part of the season. There's sometimes whole weeks go by without being able to run the trap, but that's life, isn't it? But in the early season, there are some moths to go for. And one of those is that. Now, anyone who runs a moth trap in Britain will probably know the emperor moth. And we think the emperor moth is big. That one, which looks pretty much like an emperor moth, is not an emperor moth. It's double the size. That's the size of my hand. I've got a normal sized hand, and it is a giant peacock moth. Not only do you get one or two of those in around Casa Sarasa in the right time of year, so late April, early May, you get multiples of them, sometimes 5, 6, 10 of them in the moth trap at a time. Absolutely giant, absolute impressive. And if you're lucky, the creme de la creme of the Pyrenees in spring is the Spanish moon moth. When we go in the summer, we don't see the moon moths, but we see their caterpillars. But to see the Spanish moon moth in its where it wants to be in the Pyrenees, coming out of the moth trap of Casa Sarasa, is probably another one of the most exciting sights I've ever had in life. It's a question of it's art imitating life. It is the Art Nouveau moth. And the handful I've seen there in the Pyrenees are, again, some of the most important wildlife memories to myself, and you too can also enjoy those with tours to Casa Sarasa with Naturetrek in the coming years. I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy them. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Chris. Fantastic. Right, just whilst Tom gets ready and prepares for his talk, just to say, if you have any questions, then please let us know. We are slightly overrunning a little bit, but we will still have time for some questions at the end. So do please ask if you have any. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. So let's go to Armenia, last on the list. And look at that wonderful scenery there. So where is Armenia? I must admit, I wasn't 100% sure exactly where it was before I started doing these tours, but it's in the central Caucasus. So it's quite a small country, about the size of Wales. And you can see there, it's landlocked. So it's surrounded by Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. It's the only sort of Christian country in the region, and very mountainous as well. So everything is 1,000 feet plus. So I did a recce in 2013, and we've been running trips there sort of most years since. So it's a week-long tour to the country, and we start off in Yerevan, the capital, really lively, fun city, and then go sort of anti-clockwise around the country for a few days, ending up back in Yerevan, and then we head off for the last couple of days of the trip to the southeastern part of the country. So you really do get to see the landscape and culture of this country on this tour, as well as lots of butterflies. We're ably assisted by a couple of people. We have a local guide who has been in the past, Hasmik on the left there. She's amazing on the logistics. It's fantastic. You're just in the middle of nowhere, and she sort of goes onto mobile phone, and we stop and somebody jumps out of the bush with lots of picnic rolls and salads and things. It's amazing, really. On the right is my phone a friend, Karen, who's the #1 butterfly expert in Armenia. Has discovered a number of new species in recent years, and got a fantastic website, actually, the butterflies there. So Karen is amazing. He's always on hand if I'm struggling with one of these very difficult butterflies, and there's lots of difficult things out over there. I'll send him a picture in the evening, he'll get straight back to me. So he helps make me look good. So there's the backup. So let's start the tour then. We, as I say, we arrive in Yerevan, flying over from the UK, looking over there towards Mount Ararat in Turkey. So Turkey is very nearby to the capital. And yeah, so that takes the best part of the day, to be honest. We arrive in the evening, so that day's mostly traveling. Day 2, though, we're getting stuck into the butterflies and wildlife. And we drive for about an hour to some wonderful semi-desert habitat at a place called Hatsavan. Sort of en route, we might see flocks of rose-coloured starlings, rollers on the wires, lesser grey shrikes, that sort of thing. So lots of a good introduction here. Lots of the browns and greylings, skippers that we're likely to see on the remainder of the trip in these hot arid areas. Things like the great steppe greyling, sandy grizzle skipper, and this Turanian rock brown bottom left. So butterflies aren't abundant there, but it's all sort of quality and new things for people who haven't been to hot arid sort of Caucasian landscapes before. Also, these spectacular thread-winged antlions are common there as well. These amazing looking insects. Very good for birds as well. We've got things like Rufous bush chat, Upcher's warbler pictured on the left there, lots of black-headed buntings, and then several species of wheatear in this area, like the Finch's wheatear on the right, but also Isabelline, desert, and a number of others. So it's a cracking area for birds as well as butterflies. So we spend the morning there, and then we go over to, not far away, to a place called Garni. It's a sort of popular tourist destination because of these amazing basalt rocks you can see here. Looks a little bit like an inland version of the Giant's Causeway. So we have lunch there by the river, which has dippers and things. Mountain small whites are floating about, and there's concentrations of mud puddling butterflies. We can see birds like blue rock thrush pictured there, and crag martins and Alpine swifts overhead. And there's usually a lot of butterfly activity whilst we're getting some shade under those rocks, eating our tasty local snacks. Butterflies that are also hiding from the sun, things like hermits can be around the rocks around us. And as I say, butterflies like the nettle tree pictured here are often seen mud puddling in the area. So after lunch, we'll make a short walk up to the top of the gorge and get this panoramic view of Cosroff Nature Reserve. It's got some of the last remaining areas of sort of dry woodland in Armenia. Very important reserve. Unfortunately, it's difficult to access these days, but you can see a lot of the species in peripheral areas. So we'll see a good range of arid scrubby species on that trip, things like the spotted fritillary, the odd spot blue, appropriately named. You can see there's the odd spot on the forewing, underside of the forewing, out of place with the other 3 spots. And also this quite scarce Gerhard's black hair streak. But we'll probably see 20 to 30 species of butterfly on that short afternoon walk. Then our final stop on the way back to Yerevan is this damp valley. And you'll appreciate it's a very hot, dry environment. We go at the end of June, early July, and water's in very short supply. So this place is has damp ground, so it attracts mud puddling butterflies again. So you can see, have lots of fun trying to sort out all these blues. We've got in the middle there, there's the Amanda's blue. You can see a Queen of Fritillary there, bottom left, and another odd spot blue there. And Eastern Brown Argus there. So all sorts of interesting things. There's a Lewes blue as well. So yeah, really, really fantastic and good fun sifting through these flocks of butterflies on the mud. A couple of closer views there. There's the beautiful Eastern Brown Argus on the right. So striking the patterning for a small brown butterfly. And then the Niobe fritillary over on the left. So we go back to Yerevan for that night, but we don't, we just stay for the one night, then we're off again and we drive through the countryside north for a couple of hours. And over a relatively short space of time, the landscape changes quite dramatically, really, to sort of temperate looking beech forest. En route, we'll pass Lake Sevan, where most of the world's Armenian gulls nest, and we'll stop and have a quick look at those. And we might see birds like long-legged buzzard, lesser grey shrike, hoopoes, crested larks, rollers, etc. en route. This is a fantastic place for butterflies. It's just, it's a natural forest with rides, wide rides through it, many of which are damp, and it's just absolutely alive with butterflies. And it's quite bizarre, really, because you can be walking through it and you'll see a Scotch Argus flying next to a large blue, which you know, if you're familiar with British butterflies, that's never going to happen over here. Scotch Argus is only really found in Scotland and a couple of places in Cumbria, whereas large blue is restricted to the far south of southern England. And things are also froyu as well. So we have like the pearl border fritillary pictured here, which has orange chevrons on the underside in the UK, but over here the chevrons are black, just to cause some confusion when you're trying to identify these things. Lots of other good stuff there. So you can see top left, there's some southern small whites, or false small white is the other name, mud puddling. We have weavers, fritillaries, dryads, and these lovely iridescent southern white admirals as well. So yeah, a super spot for butterflies this, and we'll spend all day there. Good for birds as well. We get red-breasted flycatcher there, black woodpeckers, honey buzzards, and large numbers of green warblers as well. So plenty to keep the all-round naturalist interested. Then we make a short drive, retracing our steps back south to really nice sort of, almost feels like a mountain lodge hotel in the beech forest. And as I say, you really notice the difference in not just landscape, but temperature as well. At night, you'll breathe out and you can see your breath at the end of June. You know, it's quite cold up there. Really nice place, got a swimming pool there, but also it's good fun to go out at night at dark and look around the lights around the lodges and see a whole range of moths. So we usually see probably 10 to 20 species of moths just by wandering around after dinner that evening. So we're off again on the next day. We're driving again. We're leaving that place behind, heading west towards Gyumri and passing some very interesting landscapes. Quite a few of these Russian villages, very secular communities, just sort of dotted in the Armenian landscape. And then we make our first stop to a place called Jajur, and we stop at this flowery glade, which has birds like mountain chiffchaff and scarlet rosefinch to distract us, but we're really focusing on the butterflies. And the coniferization there, because there's still a lot of grass left, it's actually improved the habitat because there's a lot more shelter now. So you get these flower-rich pockets that are absolutely teeming with butterflies and day-flying moths. One of the targets is the mountain Alcon blue, which is present in good numbers, but a whole range of other goodies as well, like the dark-veined or mountain small white, green-veined white, sorry. These striking Caucasian heaths, lots of fritillaries, lots of marsh and spotted fritillaries, and woodland ringlets as well. So after we spent an hour or two looking at these glade butterflies, we just paused by the bus, and this area has a few sort of monuments. It's a tourist area and there's a drinking fountain there as well. And that leaks a bit. And of course, it's another place where butterflies can quench their thirsts. So we get mud puddling species again, particularly Gavarni blues. You can see 100 plus in a tiny patch of damp ground and water. So after that, we head up this beautiful mountain pass, looking for butterflies. And a lot of the interesting stuff is in the bottom, the valley bottom through there. So things like the Savinsky's green hair streak and Osiris blue, purple shot coppers, or red underwing skippers. Lots of butterfly activity all the way up the track in this beautiful pass. And good for birds as well. We get golden eagles there every time. Seems a really good spot for them. Plus things like rock thrushes and woodlarks and white-throated robins and ring ouzels as well. Okay, so then we go to a bit of a contrast, really. This hotel in Gyumri. It's incredibly over the top in what is a sort of earthquake ravaged town, quite a poor town. And you're half expecting Liberace to wander down the staircase. It's quite bizarre in some ways, but very plush as well. So we stay there for one evening, and we go out to dinner actually in this amazing fish restaurant where the fish are swimming around you basically. As you sort of walk to the restaurant, you can see the wooden sort of decking and tables here with a canopy cover, some amazing bread ovens there as well. And they harvest sturgeon. So you get these char grilled sturgeon steaks in the evening, which are really delicious. So after our stay in Gyumri, we start heading southeast towards Mount Aragat, which is the central, by far and away the largest mountain in Armenia, passing these amazing colourful displays of wildflowers. There's just poppies everywhere as you go through the landscape, which is nice to see. And the other thing you'll notice about the slides, you won't see any fences. The whole country seems to be unfenced with sort of strip agriculture and shepherds wandering around tending their flocks of cattle, sheep and goats. So the first stop as we climb Mount Harrogate is the juniper zone, which this scrubby habitat interspersed with species-rich grassland. There's a lot of butterflies in this sort of environment, things like the yellow-banded skipper, knapweed fritillaries, lots of twin spot fritillaries. This is the first day we start seeing those in quantity, and a number of species of skipper like the marbled here, for example. It looks like a good birding habitat, doesn't it? And in fact it is. It's got loads of quality birds. It's easy to get distracted looking at the butterflies, things like ortolan bunting, white-throated robin, Radzac center, blue throats, superb range of birds there as well. So we carry on up the mountain after visiting the juniper zone and get into these stream habitats, which again are very attractive to mud puddling butterflies. This time the main species seems to be the black vein white, which is extremely abundant. You'll see groups of 200, 300, 400 at once, but also lots of grizzle skipper types as well. And it's unusual to see things in early July, things like orange tip, which have long gone over in the UK, just a reflection of these, just the bizarre range of microclimates you get in some of these hot mountainous regions. So as we climb further up the mountain towards the snow line, we come into these sort of alpine type pastures where these nomadic kurds live in the summer. It's amazing to see actually these sort of transhumans populations live in the lowland, the sort of lower areas in the winter, but tend to their herds of sheep in the summer in these sort of wild barren landscapes. Looks a little bit bleak even in the sunshine, doesn't it? So there's another little settlement there and the group of sheep. So when we get to the top of the mountain, it's cold and barren, but there is one, so not that great for butterflies, but there is one ultra rarity, the Bowden's white, which we've been lucky to see on every trip. Usually manage to get a bit of sunshine up there. And again, lots of really good birds. I think the birders in the audience will be licking the lips at some of these birds. Things like the crimson wings finch, lammergeier, the red-fronted serin there, bottom left, and then bottom right, the Alpine centre. So, I mean, this trip, apart from visiting the wetlands, it gets more or less, and not going for trying to see some of these snowcocks, it gets pretty much the same birds as the birding trips. So after a visit to Mount Harrogate, we retrace our steps back to Yerevan in one of these big sort of big roomed comfy hotels. And so as I said earlier, it's a really lively city. There's a real buzz to it. I suppose the people have not had sort of post-communist freedom, and it's quite bohemian feel to it. Lots of outside groups of younger people sort of, you know, chatting and drinking coffee or beer in the evening in the warm sunshine. It's a really pleasant place to wander around. And from there, the next day, day 6, we head southeast to some more semi-desert habitat to start picking up some more of these specialist butterflies of these extreme arid environments. So it's a place where we'll see a whole range of greylings and rock browns. Just gave you one example there, the Klug's tawny rock brown, but also a few special blues like Christoph's blue, and this Sadie's heath as well is another semi-desert speciality. But once again, still very good for birds as well, for the all-round naturalists, things like grey-neck bunting, desert finch, and trumpeter finch, as well as Egyptian vultures. So a really fantastic butterfly and wildlife spot that we spend the morning at. After that, we head further east and pass through the Eade wine region, which we usually stop off at. And you can see there's no messing about with this wine. It's not sort of intimately poured. What they do is have these huge sort of demijohn type plastic bottles, and they put them into 2-litre Coke bottles and sell them for a couple of quid, and give you a sample as well, like a half-pint sample, if you wish to try it. It's actually quite tasty, but I'm not sure if it translates back to the UK, but certainly in that climate, it seems to work okay. So the afternoon stop on this day is another beautiful flower-rich area with scattered scrub and sort of sparsely vegetated hillsides at Langenist. It's another excellent area for mud puddling butterflies, particularly these extremely difficult anomalous blues. So the anomalous blue family you'll see here, it's all the species that are either pale grey blue underneath or sandy brown with a white stripe through them, and extremely difficult to identify, but there's about at least 10 species of anomalous blue in this area that we see on these trips. Okay, then that evening we head to a really nice small town, and we go to a restaurant that is a little winery, and you'd have no idea if it's a restaurant. You just knock on the what looks like a house, somebody lets you in, and then you're into this fantastic dining room with this sort of delicious local food. If you're into sort of salads and fresh fruit and vegetables, this is a really fantastic place to visit. All of the meals you'll see here in the middle, they always come with a big plate of fresh herbs, parsley, purple basil, dill, and sort of spring onion as well as these amazing tomatoes and curd cheese. So the last full day, we start in these incredible flower-rich meadows at Ganishik, and it's a really absolutely some of the best wildflower meadows I've ever seen. It's just really spectacular. And of course, there's bound to be, it's a fantastic butterfly habitat, and there's loads of stuff there. Things like scarce copper, Balkan marble whites, good numbers of Nicole's fritillary, which is not always an easy one to catch up with. And we heard about the lattice brown in one of the previous talks. We've got the lesser lattice brown here, but also things like large blue and lots of other blues, browns and coppers and fritillaries. So the last stop on the trip in this day is the Noravank Gorge, a chance to visit this beautiful monastery, but it's the best place on the holiday for mud puddling butterflies. That's the sort of star attraction. So here's me just soaking up the atmosphere, looking at slightly bamboozled at all these butterflies in front of me. You can see 3 concentrations here, one on the damp mud in front of me, one on the first island here, and then another clump here. So I'll just show you another couple of shots. It's just amazing to search through these piles and piles of butterflies and try and work out what all these different skippers, anomalous blues, fritillaries, etc. are. It's amazing fun. So there's another group of various blues there. And then we're back to Yerevan for our last dinner in the evening at one of the local restaurants near to the hotel. So that's the last evening, but we do have one more thing we can do before we fly home on day 8. So we didn't do much on day 1, but we make up for it on day 8. We visit the sort of sadly semi-derelict botanical gardens of Yerevan, which is basically an urban park, but we still see about 25 species of butterflies there on a typical trip. So one of the real specialities here is the blue spot hair streak, picture top left, and we can see getting on for 100 of those on a single visit, as well as things like southern white admiral, scarce swallowtail, bottom left there, and Queen of Spain of fritillary. Wouldn't it be nice to have a park like this in the centre of London, wouldn't it? as the capital with 25 species of butterfly. Okay, thanks for your attention. I hope that sort of whetted the appetite a little bit to go to Armenia. It's a really wonderful landscape, incredibly friendly, hospitable people. And we're looking at seeing on average around about 130 species of butterfly on the trip, and not too far off that many birds as well. So it's an amazing experience. Definitely recommend it. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. That's great. Really sold Armenia, I have to say. Absolutely fantastic place. You actually, I was just about to ask you a question and you just answered it right at the end there, which is how many species you expect to see on the tour. About 136. So how many, percentage wise, how many is that out of the country's total?
Yeah, I think there's 236 in the country. So yeah, I'm not great at maths actually, I should be, but it may sit 2/3 perhaps. Over the course of all the trips, we've seen about 150. So yeah, around about 2/3, I would guess, unless somebody's better at maths than me and can give a better answer.
I mean, in the space of a week in mountainous terrain, that's very good going.
Yeah, it's good. It's extreme butterfly watching. It's challenging, but it's really you learn a hell of a lot because there's so many difficult species or UK species that look slightly different. So for those who like a challenge, this is the place to go, I think.
Excellent, good. Matt, if I understand correctly, you've seen all species in the UK. Roughly how long did that take you? Oh, sorry, struggling to hear you there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now, thank you.
Yeah, well, there's not much got. Anyway, so in the UK, it's relatively achievable in a short space of time. It can be done in a single year. I know a few people have done that, but if you like to take a slower pace, you can quite easily do the southern counties in 1 year, then head north for another year, then maybe go to Scotland for another year. So it's entirely how desperate you are to see them, really. But it's very much achievable in a year or a decade. Entirely up to you.
Excellent. And what's the hardest one for you to see?
Or
most challenging?
I think the trickiest one is probably the mountain ringlets, because they are quite few and far between, and you've got to get the weather right as well. But I guess also the Scotch Argus can be, mainly because you're fighting for the enthusiasm to head up to Northern England or to Scotland as well. So yeah, it's how keen you are is how easy or difficult you make it.
Okay, great, thank you. Chris, have a question from Charles Sharp. Thank you for this, Charles. Do you need a license for a moth light in Spain, or is it only for a moth trap?
It is, as I understand it, for a trap. So if you have anything that contains the moths, you do need a license for that. Indeed, there's also, particularly in national parks, restriction on any container for any insect, a butterfly or a moth. So pots and such like are also illegal in the national parks. So yeah, it's very, they are strict, and for very good reason. Of course, they value their wildlife, and there's nothing you can't do without a few photographs and accepting that there may be some things that you simply cannot tell apart unless you kill them and look at the genitalia or run them through a DNA analysis. So, we have to accept our limits and always put the wildlife's best interests at heart. And the Spaniards do that in respect of moth traps, I believe.
Excellent, that's good to hear. Chris, whilst we're with you, is there are there any species that you'd find on the French side of the Pyrenees, sorry, that you wouldn't on the Spanish, and vice versa?
There are certainly some hot, dry species on the Spanish side. So going down to the plains of the Ebro Valley, you certainly get into the steppe lands, and there's a lot of species there which are not found over on the French side. There are some of the erebias, the mountain ringlets, which are restricted to particular areas, some of which are sometimes one side or other of the watershed. So yes, there are quite significant differences. Perhaps the differences are more obvious in terms of the bird life, whereas in the French side, there are, for example, fewer raptors, whereas on the Spanish side, there are many, many more raptors. So it varies, and it's a jolly good reason to go to the Pyrenees twice.
Amen. Absolutely. Nicola, Luca, species in Italy, how many in total, approximately? Putting you on the spot there a little bit, I know.
I think we have almost 300 species. So, well, in my record in 1 year was about 200, a little bit more than 200, because I participated to a big year about butterflies and burnets in Italy.
Gosh, wow.
It is rather rich, but I didn't the southern areas where there are quite a few other different species that are not present in the north. And I might say that the western side of the Alps is the richest area. You can find quite a few that are typical of Iberia and Spain that are there in the most eastern point of their distribution.
Okay. And is there one standout species for you?
Well, usually I like the hard groups. So as I told about, well, ringlets and skippers are pretty interesting for me. I really like skippers. So everything that is hard, also with birds, is like for waders or buntings. All the groups that are complicated, the identification are my groups. But nothing in special, I may say.
Okay. Nicola, for Macedonia, you say we've been going there since 2019?
Been there in that year, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And even in, I mean, have we? Is it just the one trip we've run? I suppose.
No. It was not the first for Naturetrek. It was just me leading only on that year, but it has been done
okay.
other years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, in the times that we have been running it, have you noticed any difference in, say, the number of species found or quantities?
Well, I remember that the local guide who had been on the tour on the previous years had seen more or less the same number of species. They seen more than 100 species, so that was their target, more or less. So we're happy that we got that same number of species, but not very big differences. Well, southern festoon, for example, was a species that we didn't see on the tour where I was, but had been seen on previous tours. Depends on the season, on the weather, of course, for such species, such an early species. As we go in June, if it's a particularly wet or damp or cold winter, maybe you can see them in June. Otherwise, they're gone by that time.
Okay. And a question was it Pletva for Macedonian grayling?
Indeed, it was. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Right, everybody. I think obviously we have slightly overrun, but I'd say that's no bad thing when you have 5 fantastic speakers who've really given us great insight into the butterfly species and the tours that we do to visit them. So, gentlemen, thank you ever so much for your time and imparting your wisdom. and expertise, and I hope everybody at home has enjoyed them. As Matt said, if you want to look for all of our butterfly holidays, then you can do on our website. There is a section for butterflies. I've had a look. Most of the trips that we've been talking about this evening have availability still. Some of them only 1 or 2 places left. So if you are interested, please do book, and of course contact the office if you have any questions at all. Our next talk is on Monday evening, and we are visiting the subcontinent, so do please join us for that. You can sign up for that via the website. So gentlemen, once again, thank you ever so much. Take care, all of you at home, and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Cheers, bye.